Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Talking Real Estate with Champions Real Estate Team here at Berkshire Hathaway Home Service Ambassador Real Estate Company. My name is Mark Wehner II, team leader here at Champions Real Estate Team. So I just want to jump in. Every Wednesday, we go over what's going on in the real estate market over the last 7 days, keep you up to date on all that kind of fun stuff. And so, get you educated and all that stuff. So, first up, quick tip. So, this week's quick tip is kind of when we talk about closing costs. So, you may hear other agents, lenders, your friends, family say, oh, well, just have the seller pay your closing costs. That is not exactly true on how that works out. So actually, you, the buyer, are still paying those closing costs. It just happens to be over 30 years. So let me explain to you how that kind of works. So simple example, $100,000 listing price for a house. So you walk into that seller and you say, hey, Mr. Seller, we'll offer you $100,000, but we would like that you to pay $5,000 of our closing costs. Okay, well, that's great. Let's get the contract together. So we get $100,000, $5,000 seller paying the seller's closing or buyer's closing cost, and then you get that, deducted off your closing cost. Well, truly what's happening there is that seller is allowing you to finance that $5,000 over the life of the loan. So say you got a 30-year loan, 7%, that $5,000 may cost you more or will cost you more if you don't refinance or don't do anything, if you keep that loan and pay all the way out through that 30 years. So what I'm getting at here is, so you offered that price, $100,000. We want the seller to pay 5,000. So basically what that seller is doing is they have a $100,000 listing price. They're paying, quote unquote, what they say is that 5,000. So they are netting $95,000. So you as a buyer can say, hey, I have enough cash in the bank that I can pay that $5,000 and the seller's not, quote unquote, paying it. What you can do is you can get that house at $95,000 and pay your own closing costs. And so you're paying that up front. And then basically, so you're getting that house at $5,000 less. And so at that $5,000, your monthly payment, typically on a monthly payment, is affected. For every $1,000 you go up or down on purchase price or put down on a house on your initial investment, it affects your monthly payment about $5 to $6. So that $5,000 that you got from $100,000 down to $95,000 on that list price, you saved yourself about $25 to $30 a month on your monthly payment over that life of that loan. Whereas if you got it for $100,000, that seller quote unquote paid your $5,000, you're paying $30,000 more basically in that over the life of the loan. So truly, when you're really structuring an offer, make sure that you understand and that hopefully your agent that you're working with, and if you're not working with an agent here at Champions Real Estate Team, we want to make sure that your agent that you're working with is understanding of how that structure that offer from a financial standpoint and a lender standpoint, that that's actually working in the way that you want. So, and that may be beneficial that maybe you don't have a lot of cash in the bank and that seller, so you're not having a lot of come out of cash, come out of pocket a lot of cash at closing. So, I have a lot of clients that are first-time home buyers. They're scratching all the pennies that they can just to get into a house. And hey, that seller's going to allow you to finance that closing costs. That's what it should be. The seller's allowing you to finance that into the loan. They are not paying your closing costs. So if you can get, that $5,000, just throwing that example out there. So that's $5,000 you can keep liquid in cash in your savings account, let's say. First time home buyer, you need new furniture, you need window coverings, you need a lawnmower, you need a snowblower, all those kind of expenses that come along with home ownership, then maybe that makes sense. And that's perfectly fine, to do that. But, here at Champions Real Estate Team, myself, I want to make sure that you understand exactly what those mean. I remember when I first bought my house, before I was in real estate, and I'm like, no, the seller's paying my closing costs. And my father, who's been in the business for 40 some years now, is like, no, they are not paying. And it took me a little bit of time to kind of understand how that kind of mathematically worked itself out. So, those are things that you really need to take into account of. Make sure you're working with an agent and a lender that understands that and can explain that to you kind of on just like a elementary level of what makes sense to you. Does it make sense to have that seller allow you to finance that into the loan? Or does it make sense for you to pay that and maybe get that purchase price down a little bit? And so from a flip side, when I'm working with a seller and they come back and say, hey, we want the seller to pay part of our closing costs, I'll say, hey, that's fine, but my seller is going to net, back to that first example, my seller is going to net $100,000 on the sale of this house. And they're like, well, what does that mean? I'm like, if you want your buyer to do $5,000 in closing costs, then purchase price to be 105. So you're going above that listing price. in that situation. And so my seller or the seller is going to net 100 instead of $100,000 seller paying, they're going to net 95. So there's ways you can work those numbers, like I said, and structure those offers. And then from a seller protecting them, maybe I'm going a little more deep in the woods than we need to. But if I come back, my seller wants to net that, $100,000. But let's say now we went above the listing price. Now that home has to appraise at that accepted purchase price. So say it's 105. Well, let's say that house only appraises at 103. Well, I will write that in the contract. Say home not, should home not appraise at 105, the basically the seller to net that 100,000. So maybe you only get $3,000. If that appraises at 103, you get $3,000 because that's my client netting that $100,000. So those are things that we work here, at Champions Real Estate Team. I'm just going on my 17th year here in real estate. So there's ways that we can kind of structure offers, that benefit you from a buyer standpoint of, do you need to finance that into the loan? Then great, let's do it. No problem, no harm, no foul, but I want you to understand because that seller's truly not paying your closing costs. And I know I've worked with clients that have bought houses before I get into real estate. So, well, I'm just going to have the seller pay the closing. I'm like, no, that's not how it works. They're like, well, you mean that's what they did when I bought the house? I'm like, no, 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 no. And I explain them what I just explained to you. And they're like, well, shoot, I could have paid my own closing costs, got a lower purchase price. Maybe that would have been easier for, beneficial on that side point. But make sure you're working with an agent, especially one here, Champions Real Estate Team, or a lender that's going to explain that to you so that you understand it. When I do my coaching sessions and education sessions with my clients, I jump on Zoom, or even if we're at the office, I'll put it up on the screen at the office, and that way you can see the numbers. Because some people, as I explain this, explain this to you, you may go, I don't understand. I need to see it on paper. I do that, have an Excel cost sheet so that you understand exactly, where your money's going and what benefits you and what makes sense for you as a buyer or even as a seller when we're going through those negotiations. Because sellers ask me, well, I've had a seller go, I'm not paying anyone's, the buyer's closing costs. If they can't afford the house, they shouldn't be buying the house. Well, that's not the purpose of it. It's basically you're allowing them to finance that into the loan. You're still going to net the same, and so then, hey, let's work together to get your house sold. But it takes, education and understanding of all the different spokes in the wheel as we go through here. So anyways, that's my quick tip. It was a little long-winded quick tip here, but hey, let's jump into what's going on in the real estate market. So as we're seeing, the market is picking up, in my opinion. This graph here is basically the ground level of what's going on in the marketplace. And we're just got back to, was it February 26th here? We are at a 1-to-1 ratio here of new homes coming on the market and houses going off the market. So basically, we're at a net zero. We're a +4 listings going on in our inventory here as we look at this. So what that means is we had 368 new houses go live in the last 7 days, and we had 364 go off the market. So we're kind of getting in that tension where I was like, well, I'm going to wait for interest rates to go down. Well, as interest rates are kind of hovering steady, at that kind of, in between 6.5 to 7%. Ballpark there. Meanwhile, the inventory is getting less and less and less. More buyers are coming into the market, and in turn, as you're waiting for interest rates to drop, the home prices are more than likely going to be going up, and more competition as we see here. And this is evident. I guess I could look back at my numbers here and see when the first time it happened last year when we got to the 1-to-1 ratio of homes coming on the market versus homes going off the market. So that's the things you really got to pay attention to. You really got to be on the ball. And not just, I know the weather's 60 degrees this week. This was last week. This was when the weather was cold. When it was sub-zero temperatures, people are out there buying houses and homes are even still going on the market in that time frame. So you really got to be, aware and have your ear to the ground of what's going on in the market. And that's what we do here at Champions Real Estate Team is every Wednesday we tell you what's going on and kind of what we think. And ultimately, we don't have a crystal ball, but, I got a whole notebook here going back to 2020. So for 5 years, I've got data that shows, the cycles and what's going on. And so basically just looking at historical data can really help you, make an educated decision as, hey, is now the right time or is it down the road? But that's just what we're here to help you for. Whether you want to buy a house today, tomorrow, next month, next year, we just want to help educate you so that you can make that best decision on when that is the right time. So, and we had 200, just under 300 happy new homeowners here. So they're getting a good time to move in, 60-degree weather out there. So congrats to them on not doing it in sub-zero temperatures. So let's take a look at the 30,000 foot view. So this is what other agents, hey, how's the market? And oh, our inventory's here, at 2,800, 2,800 square feet, 2,800 homes on the market, Omaha, Lincoln. We got low inventory, and all that stuff. We got, 1,700 or 1,700 active homes in Douglas, Sarpy County, 750 on the existing side. So that number's gone down every single week. So houses are coming off the market more than are staying on the market, and we just saw that indicative of that 1-to-1 ratio. And new construction's down a little bit, down below that 1,000 mark. We were 1,001 last week. Our months of inventory dropped from 4.3 to 3.7, which is all indicative of what at that first graph that I'm showing you. So agents that aren't really have their ear to the ground of what's going on and seeing what's going on. So I mean, the old adage of you want to hear if a train's coming, you put your ear to the track. Which way is it coming from? Is it coming? Is it close? That's the same thing we do here. Is we put our ear to the ground and hear what's going on in the marketplace so that we can educate you, the home buyer, home seller, of when to put your house on the market, when to get in the market from a buying perspective, and right now, that's what we're doing, is trying to educate you, keep you on the ball of what's going on here. So, but yeah, so like I said, the average agent out there, we go, oh yeah, we got 2,800 homes. We got more than we had when we only had, 2,000 homes on the market. So we got plenty of inventory. Well, yes, we have inventory, but the thing is those new houses that are coming on, those other ones that have kind of sat on the market for 2 weeks, a month, are going to be there, and those are the ones going to be taking discount points, or discounts, potentially on those listing prices. And as new buyers come in the marketplace, they're going to go after those and try to get a little bit of a deal. Those new ones coming on the market, those buyers that have been waiting, for that fresh inventory to come up, are going to jump on it like that, and that's going to ultimately, potentially have multiple offers and those type of things. So that's what we're here for. If we can help you any way, shape, or form, let us know. My number's down here, 672-7670. Reach out to us on any of the social media platforms. We love to hear from our people out there that are listening to us, all that good stuff. So reach out to us, and if we can help you in any way, shape, or form, give us a holler, and all that good stuff. So cool. Take care, and we'll catch you next week, and enjoy the weather, and see ya.